Bill Gates didn't become one of the most powerful CEOs in history by being nice. He became legendary by being relentless. He tracked his employees' license plates. He sent flame mail at 2 a.m. He once asked a guy who worked 81 hours in 4 days, "Why would you want a day off?" But here's what people don't understand. That wasn't the end of his leadership story, and instead, it was just the beginning. Because over time, Bill Gates did something most leaders never do. He evolved. And in this video, we're going to break down how he did it and the brutal lessons that you can take from his story to not only help you become more effective in your role, but also adapt to the changes that come with your growth. If you're new here, my name's Byron Morris, and I'm the author of The Effective CEO 2.0. And on my channel, I put out videos on everything from mindset to leadership and becoming more effective in your role. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss future videos. To understand Bill Gates' evolution as a CEO, we need to break his journey down into 4 different phases. Phase number 1 was the autocrat phase. In the early Microsoft days, Bill wasn't a leader. He was a force of nature. He was hyper involved, brutally direct, and hands on with everything. Whether it was product, code reviews, strategy, hiring, if it moved, he had an opinion. And it better be the right one. Some called him a genius, others called him a tyrant. He didn't care. He was just focused on winning. The big lesson to take away from this, though, is in the early stages of building a company, intensity creates momentum. If you're building a scale up from scratch, being a little obsessive isn't a flaw, it's fuel. In the chaos of early growth, autocratic leadership isn't just normal, it's often necessary. But there's a catch. What works at 10 employees becomes a bottleneck at 100. What works at 100 breaks at 1,000. And this is why so many of the first-time CEOs I work with find themselves stuck in the weeds, because the mindset and way of operating that made them a great founder doesn't translate to being a great CEO. If anything, trying to approach your role with the same hustle and grind mentality is the very reason you'll become over-involved and the one who bottlenecks growth. The most effective CEOs, though, are the ones who recognize that it's not their job to do the doing. Instead, it's their job to step back, process problems, empower their team, and ensure everyone is working towards a common goal. This is the same transition that Bill Gates and all of the other CEOs I've covered on this series went through, where they realized that if they wanted to build one of the biggest companies in the world, then they had to stop thinking like a founder and they needed to start operating like a CEO. Phase number 2 of Bill Gates' journey was in how he built his teams. He built a culture of confrontation, and he did it on purpose. Meetings were brutal. He'd grill people until they cracked, and if your thinking wasn't airtight, he'd let you know. Not kindly, not softly, but with precision. Yet despite all that, people stayed. Why? Because they knew he cared about the truth. If you could win the argument, he'd back down and change his mind. The big lesson from this is that as a leader, high standards only work if you're willing to be wrong. Bill taught his team how to think, not to please him, not to dodge blame, but to sharpen their ideas under fire. While most people would crumble in this environment, Bill's top performers loved the challenge, as it fostered a situation where people could think bigger, they could innovate and challenge the status quo. This really brought out the best in those involved, and it's why they were able to be so disruptive in what they were doing. In contrast to that, I see so many of the first-time CEOs I work with struggling because they don't hold their team accountable. They justify underperformance, and they've created a culture where people don't follow through with the things that they need to do. And this is why if you really want to scale and grow your company, you have to think about what standards and expectations are being put in place. That doesn't mean you need to act and behave like Bill in how you deliver that message. But if you really want to actually grow, you need to hold people to the things that you need them to do. If you don't, you're going to build a company where things don't get done, tasks don't get executed at pace, or you're going to continue being pulled into problems that should be handled by someone else. Get that right, and you'll be able to get out of the weeds and spend more of your days on the things that actually drive growth. That takes us to phase number 3, when Bill realized that empowering others wasn't optional. Eventually, he hit a wall. With their rapid growth, he couldn't be at every meeting, he couldn't make every call. The company was too big and the stakes were too high. So he did what most leaders resist. He let go. He stopped micromanaging. He built a leadership team. He shifted his focus to strategy, innovation, and vision. And slowly, Microsoft evolved from a company driven by one man to a company capable of outlasting him. This is key because the reality is great companies aren't built by one person, and instead, it's a team of people coming together and working towards a common goal. That's why the big lesson here is empowerment is the real CEO unlock. Bill once said, as we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. Let that sink in for a moment. Because busy CEOs aren't effective CEOs. You can't think long term while solving short term fires. You can't change the world if you're solving everyone else's problems. You can't build $1 billion business if you're doing low leverage tasks. As a CEO, your job isn't to do everything. It's to build a system that works without you involved in every decision. And this is a trap that I see so many of the first time CEOs I work with stuck in, where they've built a company that revolves around them. This is why they're over-involved, overwhelmed, and overloaded by everything that needs to get done. And if running your company feels like babysitting, then that's a sign that you need to do a better job as a leader to empower those around you. That means really getting clear on where does your time have the greatest impact and what can only be done by you, and then getting yourself out of everything else. Because once you start clearly communicating expectations and you hold your team accountable to do the jobs that you've hired them to do, that's how you can get yourself out of the day-to-day, and you can focus on the things that are actually going to get you to where you want to be. And I know that it's hard, especially when your reputation's on the line, you've got standards you want to be met, when you feel like no one can do something as well as you. But if you really want to take the business to the next level, you have to figure out how do you let go and then come to terms with doing so. Because if you don't, it's not a matter of if, but when you become the one who bottlenecks growth. And that takes us to phase 4, which is reinvention. After stepping down from Microsoft, Bill did something even more unexpected. He reinvented himself. He went from aggressive tech founder to a global health leader, climate innovator, and education reformer. He used the same intensity, focus, and obsession for detail, but he pointed it at new global challenges. The big lesson here is that great leaders evolve with the mission. You don't need to stop being intense. You need to redirect your intensity to what actually matters now. You've probably heard the saying, what got you to where you are today isn't going to get you to where you want to be tomorrow. And like I said before, what made you a great founder will make you a terrible CEO. What made you great at Series A might be killing you at Series C. This is why if you want to become the leader your company actually needs, you have to be willing to shed your past success patterns. That means really recognizing where you may be getting in your own way and the mindset, behaviors, and shifts that you need to make within yourself if you want to get to the next level of success. Because here's the brutal truth. Bill Gates didn't become effective by trying to be liked. He became effective by being ruthlessly committed to growth. Not just his company, but his own. And that commitment meant evolving from a micromanaging coder to a visionary CEO to a global thought leader. With that being said, though, you don't have to approach leadership in the same way that Bill did. And you definitely don't need to shout, belittle, and tear people down in order to bring out the best in them. What you do need to do, though, is be firm but fair, where you set the right expectations and you uphold the required standards. So if you're stuck in the weeds, over-involved, and overworked, then take a page from Bill's playbook. Lead with intensity, think with clarity, empower your team, and let go of what used to work. And most importantly, get obsessed with becoming the leader that your company actually needs. If you want to make that transformation, I've got a video that goes through the 5-step process that my first-time CEOs use to evolve into the leader their company needs to take it to the next level of success. I'll drop the link in the description of this video, or simply get in touch using my email below and I'll send you the link. For now, though, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think about Bill Gates' leadership style? And are there any changes you need to make in your own approach to adapt to the challenges that come with your growth? Share your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, on my channel, I have various videos covering everything from leadership lessons from top CEOs, their routines, and what you need to do to become more effective in your role. I'll link a couple at the end, but make sure you check out my channel so that you don't miss the rest. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss future videos. And if you want to take this even further, then in the description of this video, you can get a copy of my book, The Effective CEO 2.0, where I'm going to show you how to maximize your time, lead with confidence, and grow a business without losing your sanity. I've been Byron Morrison. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.